Hi guys, Shemo Polot here. Welcome back to the channel. So, today I'm going to show you how to build your own function in Google Sheets. And why the heck would you ever want to do that? Well, there's certain things that you do in Google Sheets every now and then, or even in Excel. Maybe if you work in a company, there's certain calculations you perform over and over again. A good example I can think of is calculating the percentage change between two different time periods in finance and accounting. And that formula that we learned when we were young, new minus old over old times 100 to give you the percentage change. If you do that a lot, then why not create a function that does that calculation for you a lot faster, right? So think about that and think about every other repetitive calculation that you make and know this, that you can create a function that does that specific calculation in an instance so you don't have to do it every single day, every single week, every single month for the rest of your time working there. Okay? So let's get into it. I'm going to show you how to do magic in Google Sheets. All right, okay. So in order to build your own function, you need a function in Google Sheets called the lambda function. The lambda functions are relatively new, maybe less than a year old in Google Sheets. And they've sort of been buried behind the scenes just because it's a little technical, but I want to sort of like ease you into this process. This is not going to be a Lambda Functions 101 video. I'm just sort of going to show you what's possible. And if you follow along well, you'll learn enough to replicate it on your own. At least I hope you will, okay? But yeah, let's start with how the Lambda function works, okay? So, in here, we have a random number, 10. So say the way lambda functions work is they help you use an expression to create a calculation automatically. Now, the lambda function isn't very useful by itself. And I'm going to show you why. But it's very powerful when paired with certain specific array functions, okay? So in this case, if I have 10, what if I want to find 10 times 10, okay? To do that, I do equals this, and I multiply it by 10, I press enter, I get 100, okay? 10 times 10, okay? But what if I wanted to do this with a lambda function, okay? It's unnecessary, but bear with me just to understand how it works, okay? Equal sign to initiate the function, lambda. So what lambda takes, it will take the different names or the different variables that you want to compute, and then it will take an expression. For example, x, and then x plus 1, so you can create that specific calculation. Now, if you look at this right here, just hold that in your mind. So x in this case is our 10, and x plus 1 will be the expression that we're going to use to get 100. Okay, so we can call that value x, and then the expression would be x times 10. Okay. And then, but now, when you leave it like this, as you can see, it underlines it and it gives us an error. It says function lambda should be followed by a call containing the actual cells. So I need to add this cell right here, which will tell Google Sheets what exactly I want to perform that calculation on. Okay, so I click inside there, put it in brackets, and as you can see, we get the same answer. I'm going to wrap that in a little nice box. But yeah, so there you have it. What we have is we did the same thing, but as you can see in this case, the lambda function is useless. It takes a lot longer, and probably wouldn't recommend ever doing it in this case, okay? But this was just to show you how it works. So you create the value. I'm just going to double click in there. You create a variable, and then you put the expression that you're going to perform on said variable, and then you add in the brackets outside the formula. Say this is the formula. Then outside the formula, in brackets, you just put the cell that you want this calculation to apply to. Or in this case, what you're saying is A4 is X. Okay, that's essentially what you're saying. Is the value inside F4 is the variable. Okay, so again, stick with me now. Again, no reason for you to use a lambda function when you can just do 10 times 10 manually like we did in the first case. But it gets better as things get more complicated, okay? So now down here, what we have is information on let's say money made in your year, separated by quarters, quarter 1 to quarter 4. And in 2021, we see these amounts of money were made in millions of dollars. 2022, these amounts of money were made in millions of dollars. So the question is, if you want to find the percentage change between 2022 and 2021, how do you do it? Okay, yes, you remember, to get the percentage change, you get the new value minus the old value, divide by the old value, okay? Which is what I'm just going to do here really quickly. This new value, minus that, divide by that, okay? Just put that in brackets, and then Google Sheets gives us autocomplete, and there you have it, okay? So this is how you find the percentage change. And as you can see, 32%, it went from 220 to 290. This dropped from 280 to 220, so it's a minus. 110 to 150 is a plus. 230 to 250 is also a plus, okay? But now, so that is one way to do it, which is the manual way, which is probably the way you do it, okay? Now I want us to use the lambda function to do the same exact thing, okay? Now again, if you remember correctly, we need to create variables, okay? We need to create variables and then create the expression and then put the values that are going to be inside the variables outside the function, okay? Let's take it slowly by slowly. In this case, we have two variables. We have this year, the old year, and the new year, okay? So I'm going to say old, then new, okay? Then the expression, what's the expression? New minus old, divide by old, okay? There you have it. That's the lambda function. Now what we have to do is enter the actual variables that we need, okay? So what is old? Old in this case is that, comma, what is new? New is that. And as you can see, we're getting 32%, so we're on the right track. We close that bracket, we hit enter. Once again, autofill, done, okay? So then we see that using the lambda function, again, a lot longer, completely unnecessary. Again, it's not very useful to use the lambda function by itself. However, now I want to introduce you to another function called the map function, which is an array function in Google Sheets, which is extremely powerful. And so let's see how we can use map to do the same thing, okay? To get the same, to perform the same calculation, okay? So we do equals map, and maps each value in a given array to a new value, okay? So I hit tab, open that. So the map function takes arrays, and it can take any given number of arrays, and then it takes a lambda expression, okay? So these lambda functions include that lambda formula inside them, okay? So actually, before we do this, what I want us to do is come here and just copy this lambda function that we use, because it's going to be relevant for us inside our map function. So I just copied that, okay? So then I come here, so inside map. So map is going to help us, instead of having to copy the formula downwards, even though Google Sheets was helping us with autocomplete, okay? But map is going to help us do this calculation faster. But instead of considering each value at a time, it's going to take the array. So we're just going to get all those numbers, all those old ones, and all those new ones, okay? So that's the array portion of the map function, as you can see here. So next we have to enter a lambda expression, okay? So we had copied our lambda formula from right here. So now I'm just going to paste it there, okay? So there we have it. However, I am going to remove that because we don't need that, because these are already accounted for inside the map function right here. Okay, so then I'm just going to close the map function and press enter. And as you can see, again, same result, different function, okay? So what simply happens with map is map goes through these arrays and performs the calculation that you see inside here. It iterates through them automatically. It starts with B9 and C9, and it puts them through this lambda function, gives it 32%. Then it goes to B10 and C10, puts you through the lambda expression and gets 21%. It goes to B11 and C11, puts you through this lambda expression and gets a value. That's what happens. It sort of just like iterates through the ranges, and for all the values in the different ranges, it puts those values inside the lambda expression that you put in here, which is old, new, and that calculation right there, okay? So again, though, this is cool, but again, why the heck would you do this? These two are still way more complicated than this one, right? Percentage change, the way you do it is still easier than these two, okay? And you're absolutely right. But here's the trick. Because we now have map doing this here, what we can do is copy this formula for map and use this to create a custom function that performs this calculation on any given range of cells, okay? We want a scenario whereby you can just find any given range of any given arrays like this of 2 different years and just use this new function you've created to get the percentage change automatically, okay? So how are we going to do this, okay? So we click inside here, we go to data, and in data we have named functions, okay? So we click that, and then we go to add new function, okay? So we're going to call the function percent change, okay? And we're going to say, so function description, again, the description which will appear in the about section of the function autocomplete, okay? So here we say, let's say calculates the percent change between 2 different values or arrays. Okay, that means it can either be just B9 and C9, or it can be these and those. Okay, so that's the description. Okay, argument placeholders is just, and let me just hover over the I. For example, consider using cell or range when the input you expect the function to utilize is a single cell or a range of cells. And this applies to the formula, the functions that you use in Excel every time. Sometimes a function requires a range, sometimes it requires a cell. So it's just asking you what placeholders do you want to use based on what your function looks like, okay? And that's optional, so for now we're going to ignore that, okay? So then the formula definition. So in the formula definition, that's where you put the formula that is going to work behind the scenes for your new function, okay? So and as you can see here, when I hover over the I, it says an example formula definition using argument placeholder range is, so equals count if range true, which counts the number of true values in a selected range, okay? So what we're going to do, this is where we're going to paste our map formula that we copied from right here, okay? Now, the important thing to notice now is whenever you have a function, obviously when you're creating a function, there shouldn't be any hard-coded cells, B9 to B12, because it won't always be B9 to B12. So instead of B9 to B12, what you want is, in that case, because B9 to B12 is a range or an array, then you want to use the placeholder here will be range or an array. So that's what that is, okay? So, and Google Sheets is very good at helping you out. So argument suggestions, it says replace all instances of a cell or a range with an argument placeholder. So what we're going to do is start with B9 to B12, and we're going to call this a range. And then C9 to C12, we're also going to call it a range. Okay, like that. So now this is what the formula looks like. This looks nice and generic, you see here, because now we don't have any hard-coded cell references in there. That means that the function can work on any ranges that you put into it, okay? So then we click next, and inside next, additional details, which are optional. Argument description is just describing what the range means, a short description. I'm just going to call it a cell or range of cells. Okay, and really this is going to be the same thing. Just going to copy that, paste it here, okay? And then I'm going to click done. So now we create, and so now our function is ready to use, okay? So now the moment of truth, we test to see if our function works, okay? So we go here to named function, so equal sign. So the same way you type other functions, you come here and do %change. You look for it, and here you can see it's labeled named function. And as you can see, it has the descriptive text that I entered earlier on. And I click tab, and as you can see, it will take the range. So what I do is I enter this range, and I enter this range. Oh, I made a mistake in our function. I did not include more than one range. Sorry, we have to go back here. Just edit that right here. So I'm just going to make this range 1 and range 2. Oh, it needs to give me 2 ranges. I may need to do this again. Let me just do it again really quickly. %change calculates the %change or ranges. We want our formula. I need to find the formula. I copied it. There it is. Paste it there. Okay. So argument suggestions. So B1, this is going to be range 1, define. And then C9 to C2 is going to be range 2 and define. Okay, like that. So now we have 2 ranges, which is exactly what we need. Okay? All right, so I click next, and I'm just going to leave these optional again because this is just a way to explain what the range means, but for now I'm just going to leave that blank. Okay, so now we have 2 ranges, which is what we want. Okay, so we come in here, equal sign, %change, we come down here, and so we enter our first range, comma, our second range, and we press enter, and as you can see, we get the same answers. These are just rounded up. These are just rounded up. Otherwise, 31.82 and 32%, same thing, right? So this now, using our newly created function, this here is a lot faster than these 3, okay? And that is how using named functions can be really useful to you. So my recommendation is that you figure out what, I would start with something simple. Try to create a simple function for a simple thing that you use. I will leave a link to this workbook in the description so you can play around with it and sort of understand how it works, especially that formula creation, that function creation part. But once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to create so many different custom functions for yourself that will make your work a lot easier. Otherwise, that's it for this video. Magic, I've taught you how to create a new function in Google Sheets using Lambda functions and a bunch of and new named functions. I will see you in the next